Hello, Miss Michelle Gray. Hello, Eric. How are you guys doing?
Hello, Elisa. And Eric says, hello, Mamacita.
I love you, in case you didn't know.
He says, I love you too, Mama.
I love your haircut. I love the bling bling going on in the background too, Michelle.
Thank you. I love your glasses.
Oh, thank you.
They're gorgeous.
I have to have them a little bit of a frame so it kind of covers up some of the wrinkles. I'm just kidding. Anyway, Eric and you decided you want to talk about communication with the body. And, I don't know very much about that because I'm usually not even in my body most of the time. I run into walls and trip everywhere and stuff like that. So I am not an expert on communication with the body. So take it away, Eric.
Eric goes, he says, yeah, she is a little clumsy.
Little? Oh, God.
Two left feet, basically. But he said
pretty
that
much.
just like right away, he said, what you just said is the premise of why he wanted to talk communication. So I said to him, Eric, what do you want to talk about? And he said, communication. I said, okay, like spirit communication, like people communicate, what kind of communication? He says, with the body, with our bodies. And he says, the reason why is because so many of us, whether we are consciously really working on our spiritual path or we're still operating in a third dimensional world that, we can so easily get disconnected from our body when we're out and about and doing all these things. And he said, so what he really wanted to bring forward today is to let us know, to remind us, to help us with our intentions of how to speak to our body and not only communicate with our body, but to understand that our bodies are also receivers and that we're continuously receiving information.
Okay.
So he wants to focus a little more on our physical bodies and with the communication that we have with it. But he also did give me, so Eric and I chat a little bit beforehand. We always do.
Okay.
We have a little communication. And in the last 24 hours, it seems like every time I slow myself down, of doing a housework or doing dishes or something like that, he comes in and he starts giving me a little bit more about it.
Oh, but does he help you with the dishes?
He keeps me company.
Oh, there we go.
That
Better than nothing.
That's all I need. It's all I need. But I want to just say one thing he told me yesterday, and it kind of blew me away the way I guess I never really thought of it. And so I want to see if I can get this right, how he said it. Okay, so our bodies, you know how we're so governed, our emotions, relationships, and whatnot by the moon and how the moon cycles. And we focus so much on the moon. And he said, the other hand of this is to understand that the sun is the govern of our body. And he said that the sun is an animation. It is an animation of ourselves every day as we set every day and we renew ourselves.
So moon, emotions, sun, body.
Yep, he says that the sun is the body, the life force, the everything that we are to do with life. And to not forget that we are we are part and parcel of the whole entire universe.
Yeah.
And so he said that it's the vitality. He also said it's like a lot of the words like light workers and the sun being the ruler of light, and how the sun also affects, if you look into, he says, astrology and whatnot as well. He says that all is governing our bodies and our emotions. So I just thought that was really interesting.
That is so cool. I know that as a resident and an intern, man, when there was a full moon, all sorts of crap happened. I mean, first of all, so many deliveries during my OBGYN rotation, but also some weird stuff would happen. Like a person would be going in a wheelchair, being brought in a wheelchair with his guts kind of cradled in his arms because he got run over by a propeller in the ocean. It's just crazy. Or one person came in with his foot because he fell asleep on a train track. It's terrible.
like such weird things, right? Like the moon, and Eric's just saying that's right. And he said that the slow down. He will go into 3 different streams of conversation, and I can't keep up with him. He said that so much of what we do is our emotions and everything is so governed by the moon. He said what you just said, people experience that all the time. And I've been documenting for a few years now different things that have happened, and it all cycles with the moon. It's just amazing to go back and to kind of look at that sort of thing.
It affects energy. We went to some wineries on our vacation, and there was one that was biodynamic, a totally organic one, and they did everything according to the stage of the moon. Like, I can't remember, but the full moon is when they, do the harvest, and the waxing moon they do. So they have, because these vineyards are all energy, like everything is. So, but anyway,
and that's exactly it.
But anyway, go on. I was going to tell you some funny stories from the ER, but it's pointless. That's like, it doesn't have anything to do with communicating to the body.
Eric goes, Mom, you need to have a session of funny stories from the ER. You need to just tell some of them, because people would be really interested in hearing some of that.
Yeah.
Because, to hear that aspect of things. But, okay. So he just said that, so what he wants to start with is looking at our body as the receiver. He says, let's start there.
Okay.
Let's look at our body as the receiver.
Like an energy receiver? Like a radio receiver? Okay.
Yeah.
Receiving certain frequencies. Okay.
He's talking about how our body has, if you can imagine, he says, to try and explain to us how our consciousness or our spirit is pushed into this body is hard for us to understand. But it is. We're contained in this body. But he says, if you can imagine, it doesn't all contain the way we think it does. It's not like a zipper opens and we're pushed into this one little spot and it zips back up. He says it flows outwards.
And I figured. I don't want to get no claustrophobia.
No.
Okay. That's good. So Let me out of here.
He just showed me the grossest thing. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Don't be holding.
Okay. He just showed himself exiting out, like as if he was being born.
Okay.
From a woman. Like.
Hello.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a skit. Robin Williams was watching his wife, give birth. He's, oh my God, and he's looking, oh my God, what does 666 mean? Because the baby was crowning. It was so funny. Yeah. So
okay, so we're all receivers, he says. Okay, and so the aura, if we could imagine, if we could see energetically, and he says some people can, and he says the auras, on some people, they're so huge that they're reaching out. So if a person's walking down the street, that aura can already be all the way down the sidewalk.
Yeah. You froze. It'll come back. Yeah, we'll come back. Come back. Eric, fix it. Okay,
different topics.
Okay, wow. Yeah, for a long time.
Oh, weird.
Hang on, I'm going to, well, it's about to storm. Let me pause the recording and change my Wi-Fi to a different. All right, we have weather issues here. Sorry, people. But what were you just saying, Michelle? You'll come back. Yeah, there we go.
You are. There we are. Okay. So what Eric was showing me was, as us, the aura is not completely contained in the body. So he says, if you could imagine, and some people can see this, that our energy, so say we're walking down the street, this is what he's showing me right now. If we're walking down the street, our aura can be way ahead of us.
Oh, really?
Way this way, yes. So he said, you are reaching into other auras. So he goes, you know, when you get those feelings,
Yeah.
you're walking and you start to feel something doesn't feel right. He
Yeah.
goes, really, let's think about that. He goes, people say this every day. He goes, we are feeling beings first.
Yeah.
We feel first. He says, society has trained us to think first,
I know.
feel after. So he said, so this is about doing a little flip of the switch with the brain and understanding that you're receiving your information by what is coming into the body. And he says, so this is about training yourself to feel the energy that's coming towards you and then sorting. So, okay, all right, coming into the right side of the brain and then understanding it in the left side of the brain, he says.
Is it always that way for everybody? Or is it different for left-handed people and right-handed people?
No, because he said that it's, I mean, everybody to different, he says right is receiving. Like he says it's because anything that you are getting energetically, he says is like a process through your body. It's the right side is the analytical that sorts it out to understand it.
Oh,
he says now where it's a little bit different though is he says that
you mean the left side. The left side is
yes,
yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Well, you might have said that. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm seeing it in my head too, because he's showing me, he says some people, now here's the thing, there's some people that will receive on the right hand side and they can roll with that feeling. They can work into that feeling. And then someone like myself, he said, I'm very expressive on my creative side. I'm very expressive with my right side. So,
right brain, yeah.
Right? Like I don't, he's just, he's saying she doesn't think that much.
Oh, well, I don't do anything on either side. And those auras that are the aura that is walking in front of me, my aura, that's probably why I trip so much. I trip over my own aura.
He says, he goes, if you could see your auras banging into people all over the place.
Oh God, it's horrible. So sorry, excuse me.
But that's okay. So, excuse me. Well, sorry. That's what he's doing. But he said that, so some people will take the information. So if we've got somebody who is more of an analytical left brain thinker, that they will take the information and rather than sit with the feeling of it or try to understand the feeling, they will pull it directly into the left brain. He goes, and this is where you get people saying, oh, I am only a left brain thinker. Yeah. I am all left brain and no right brain. He goes, that's not really true because it's just like empathy or anything else. There is a degree to how much somebody is one thing or another. Yeah. And he said, so understand that if you want to become better at communicating with your aura, communicating and understanding what you're receiving, he goes, and this is where he said we could go off on different tangents or conversations about communicating with spirit, about communicating with our own body and understanding, are we feeling something from somebody else or are we feeling something that's ours? And he said, so understand that understanding this comes from practice. He said, so
people can develop their right brain creativity and vice versa. So you can start thinking again, Michelle.
I know.
But okay, he said, I want to back up. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Well, he was just saying that the body can do so many things. The body can heal itself. The body can, or the aura can understand the way we receive information. He goes, this is about us remembering how.
Yeah, I want to back up because a lot of people maybe have not read this in the blog when we didn't have any YouTube. But that what Michelle and Erik were talking about is we are emotional beings. We need to feel first, and then that feeling can then generate a thought, and that thought can create choices, decisions, whatever. Instead, society has created, this whole other sequence for us that we have a thought first, and that will evoke an emotion, and that emotion, which is not a good idea, generates a choice. So I just want to say that. Also, what are you talking about? The aura could be way in front of us. How can I catch up? Or wait, I want to talk to you. But why did you mention it being in front of us?
Well, he said, he goes, he's just blaming me for explaining it because he was going like this.
Okay.
Like around. So he says, for example, when you're walking, he goes, really, like, let's say you're walking down the street, really your aura is in front of you, behind you, beside you, it's all the way around you.
Oh, okay.
But he was talking about how it projects out in front of you. So if you could imagine something that is down the street, you know, thinking in a linear way of thinking.
Yeah.
So that's why he's saying that I explained it in that way, because I was thinking in the linear fashion. But he goes, the truth is when you feel anything, he says that's why you need to tune into what your body is telling you. Are you getting hairs raising on your arms? Are you feeling like you need to run? Are you feeling like you need to stop and check something? He says a lot of this is, and he says with receiving in this way starts with a gut reaction, and like he said, with goosebumps, physical type things. And he says, and that's one way, but he goes, and then there's also the physical feeling. Yeah. The physical feeling within our body. Okay. So he says, this is where we get into, I'm feeling a sensation in my body. And he goes, the first step to being able to do this is, one, recognizing that you can do this. Yeah. So the first step is always saying that I am an emotional feeling being. I can feel and receive information this way, because he says if your belief systems are in a place where you feel that none of this is possible, you're not going to really get anywhere. Your belief systems, and he says, so that's the first thing, to understand that you can receive a lot of information with your body.
You have to be aware, and you have to be mindful. You know, most of us we're either in the future, anxiety, or in the past, depression, and we're just all over the place. So it's really hard to sit with yourself and take an inventory of what your body and your emotions, your intuition are picking up.
That's right. And he says, and thanks, Mom, too, because that's exactly right, because that was going to be his next point, is about doing this. Understanding this is also a way to keep yourself in the now, by training yourself to check in with your own body, rather than just going to the reaction of what you're seeing with your eyes, with your physical eyes. Because he says, think about it, how often do we say something like, well, it looks bad, or I don't think this is going to go well. I'm going to look at the lineup.
Or your ears. Oh, that doesn't sound right.
Exactly.
So it's almost better to be, I wonder if people who are blind and deaf, if they are better at sensing things with their emotions, their intuition. I mean, first of all, is there a difference between emotions and intuition? But that's a two-part question.
Actually, so Erik said yes to the first, what you said first.
About blind and deaf, okay.
Yes, he says when a sense is taken away, the other senses will grow up, and because those senses are what are used to compensate or to help still read into that information. And then, sorry, what was the second part that you said again?
Is there a difference between intuition and emotions? Because I feel like we need to listen to both, but are they the same? Probably not.
So he says that the intuition is the innate wisdom within us, and the emotions are like our receivers, our information, because the emotions are what helps us become aware, so that we can then look. So what the emotions are, what attaches to, would you say, like a situation? I wanted to say problem, and he said, yeah, but that's my mind going to, it could be anything. So he said,
it's a reaction then? Is it a reaction to what the intuition is picking up?
Well, no. The intuition, he said, can pick up on the feeling. So he says a feeling of something like, I feel like this isn't a good idea.
Okay.
I feel like this place is kind of scary. The emotion would be, I'm freaking out and scared.
Yeah.
So it's reacting to the situation.
And the intuition is the one that's doing what? Saying, I sense something.
The intuition is the driver. He says if you could imagine a car, the intuition is the driver in the car.
Okay.
The intuition is the driver in the car, and the emotions is the person in the backseat driver.
Oh.
So that's why he said when you want to listen to your innate wisdom within you, because emotions are still something that we look to control, that
Yeah.
we look to understand, whereas the intuition is something that is there,
And they,
that
yeah.
is honed, that is grown, and that we pull the information from. So
Okay.
he says they are separate, and because we don't try to, well, because some people like to shut down their intuition, but what the whole goal of what we're wanting to do is to integrate our intuition into ourselves, our higher selves, to our physical lives.
Is the intuition, is that sort of some sort of communication channel with the higher self?
Yes, he says so.
Okay.
He says that the higher self, the intuition, he says there's so many different ways that people call it, because some people call it their inner guidance, some people call that their spirit, or however they want to. He says it all comes in within that information. Now he says there's a really fine line between communication of the intuition and of spirit communication. And he goes, and that again is something that comes with practice.
Yeah.
With practice of, so he says, for example, feeling something, and your intuition says, I feel something. And he said, okay, he's trying to show me some, just to explain, because I don't want to talk about what I can see in my head and not explain it to everybody else, but he's showing me somebody who is sitting in a meditative state, and the intuition, okay, the intuition, so if say Erik was coming up and he was going to connect with you and you felt a tingle on your arm.
Yeah, and I have, yeah.
Okay, so the intuition would say, I think that's Erik. That feels like Erik. Yep, I think that's Erik. And physically, you're feeling a tingle. Well, over time of honing that intuition, trusting that intuition, and having faith that yes, that is Erik, every time you feel that, that's Erik's signature. That's how you're going to recognize that it's Erik. And he says, so you can do this with, and as he just did my signal right now, he just tingled my signal. So I get like a little scrape in a spot there that I know is him. And so he's got a whole lot of information about this. So I'm just trying to get him centered down to one thing so we're not all over the place. Okay, so he just said, first of all, he wants to also look at how we respond. So he's talking about responding to the body of what we're feeling, and that if we're feeling something from spirit, that this is something that we can practice and recognize. And he said that as you move forward with that, he goes, you'll get to know how your body starts to react. He says that's really a whole topic in its own, talking about spirit communication and feeling that within your body. Because he also just wants to touch upon one of the bigger things that he wanted to get at today was our physical body and how we feel in our physical body, such as if my knee hurts, or you know, I've cut my finger. And he wants to talk about how, when he had just said about how our bodies can heal ourselves, and we just need to remember. He said that
remember what?
Remember who we are. Remember that we can heal ourselves.
We can do that. Yeah.
Yes, that this is a possibility. He said that a lot of people, he says that the understanding of loving oneself or healing oneself, he says what sometimes gets ignored is the fact that we can talk to our own body, that we can communicate with our own body, that we can channel our own body.
Yeah.
We can channel
Wow.
parts of
So
our
we can
body.
wow. So I can channel my sore thumb.
Yes.
Wow. Stop
Yes.
it. What are you doing to me? I know I'm old, but God.
And he said, so talking to ourselves, he says, is something that, so if you've not talked to yourself at all, or for a very long time, he says, you're going to find it really, really weird to start talking to yourself. But he goes, you got to start somewhere.
Well,
And
give me an example of a, oh yeah, go ahead. That's good. That's
okay, what he recommends is the first thing to do, if you want to start communicating with your body, start understanding the signals that your body's getting. And he said, this is not a one size fits all. The balance in everybody's body is different.
Yeah.
We don't all have the exact same balance. So how our bodies react and talk to us is going to be just as unique as we are, basically. So he says the first thing he recommends to do is he says to get to know yourself. So he says if you can pull a lengthwise mirror, or just a mirror right up to yourself, and you can.
Oh God, we don't have to see ourselves naked, do we? Jesus.
No, he said, although that would be really good for the soul, but
not my soul. It's like in those changing rooms with those horrible mirrors that make your thighs look gigantic. I hate them. I like nothing to see here. Nothing to see.
He's got a blindfold on. He's got a blindfold on.
That's best.
So he said that okay, so talking to yourself and actually looking at yourself and saying hi. How you doing? I love your face. Look at that nose. Hey nose, how's it going? I haven't paid attention to you in a while. Hey mouth, thanks a lot for always being there for me. Thanks for, and he says the reason why he's saying it in this way, and he goes, and he's kind of being a little bit comical about it on purpose, is he says to get into that conversation, and he goes, it's being in the now, and it's being in awareness. He goes, but what it's also doing is because it's pulling you into the now, you are manifesting this energy. You are awakening this energy within yourself. So again, this is something that has to be done regularly. This is something that you need to do because it's not just going to happen automatically that, your toe is going to turn up and go, hey, you need to do something with me. I need to have my toenails clipped over here. Like, it's not going to happen like that. But he goes, believe it or not, it can, because your body can talk right back to you. Wow. And he goes, and maybe you're going to start feeling it if this is something that you, he says there's people that are very skilled at this, that do this, that can channel parts of their own body and understand what they're ill with or what needs to be done. And he goes, a lot of these people, though, are not ill right now. So, but he says, and this is part of the reason why, but was this is where evolution is headed with us. So we are headed to more of a telepathic like conversation, not only with other beings, but within our own physical body and our own being. And he said that we're going to move more to a natural holistic type way. And he says with science and still with medicine, but it's going to be moved into a more holistic way. But he says the consciousness and the expansion is helping us understand that we are capable of caring and healing ourselves. We really can do that. And he goes, that's really what the bottom line is. But he said that the communication, just as the way he spoke of when we were talking about the aura and talking about how information comes in, he says, same with our body. The communication still comes in the right side. The left side is what sorts it all out. He said, do you have a question? Because he keeps saying, he keeps waiting for you to ask him something.
Oh, okay, because I usually interrupt, I know. So that'd be really cool of one session to like channel my body. Ugh, I don't know. about
Yes,
the results,
that
but that'd
would
be
be.
cool. Different body parts, etc.
That would
Well,
be.
why is it that? Because I have a feeling in the olden days that we were more in touch with our bodies and communicating with our bodies. What? Why did society change things for us to where we do think and then before we feel instead of feeling before we think? And why is it that we don't communicate with our body or even have much of a relationship at all with it anymore? What went wrong?
Erik said it wasn't so much of what went wrong as time and how society became more and more dependent on new technologies and how we expanded the world. The society became busier,
Yeah,
not only less connected with each other, but first of all, we became less connected with ourselves and started to rely more on outside
yeah.
assistance. And he
External
says, and that,
beacons. Yeah,
yes, he goes, that just boils down to the same thing that many are breaking down now, and that's fear.
yeah,
It's fear. It's fear. When we had become so far away from that, it's the fear that somebody else is in control of our well-being.
yeah.
And, it becomes this information over here. And he says, and just think about how technology and has spread. He goes, the internet spreading information. It's not just our community and our circle that we're relying on anymore. It's we can connect with the whole entire world.
Yeah, yeah,
So he said that was an evolution over time, that we became less and less connected with ourselves and more connected with the outside world.
yeah. Well, another thing is we talked about controlling our emotions, and that's not a good thing, I don't think. How did that happen? Does society have anything to do with that?
He says it with more of he talked about and he kind of had gone on to this about things being fast paced,
Hmm.
and so without people slowing down and taking time, he goes, think about naturally, even folks that say weren't um, metaphysical, so to speak, or understanding the process of what they were doing. There was more working in the earth. There
Yeah.
was more growing from the earth. So there was grounding that was happening. There was
Mm,
ritual that was happening. There was tradition that was
yeah.
happening. And he says, so this also, people did take time to have time to converse after church
Mm,
or time to converse after a meal. And again, he goes, then the pace starts to quicken and everything's looked to convenience. It starts to become, this happened and we react. This happens and we react. And when that habit or that way of living starts to just continue to roll, he said that it just becomes a hamster wheel of react, 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 react,
yeah.
and the emotions get all over the place. So, it's kind of like everybody's got it backwards, and
Yeah.
it's been had to re-rein it the other way. And he just said that it's there's a lot more people understanding this now. He just
Good.
wants to point out, because he says, yeah, we are saying that people aren't, but he just wants to point out that things are changing. They really
Thank
are
God.
changing. Yeah.
Good, good. Because you're right, Eric. I see that we have less and less time to just not only have conversations with other people, but with ourselves, or to even
Yeah.
reflect on our inner landscape, on our emotions, on what makes us tick. And so we need to set aside time to have a communication with our emotions, our
Well,
mind,
that's right.
everything, not just the body, but everything else.
Well, Erik says that's right, Mom, and he said, like, as we know and have spoke of, he said, disease. We know what disease is. Disease is dis-ease in the
Mm,
body.
yeah.
And he goes, and so our emotions, when they're not dealt with, when they're not understood, cared for, and then released, those
Hmm.
emotions become built up in the body.
Yeah.
They become, he says, they manifest within the organs and over time. And he says, and that's also over generations, emotional. He says, okay, hereditary disease, he's saying.
Oh, really?
And he's pointing out to my own family. And he says hereditary disease is something that there's a family lineage of emotion, deep emotion, karmic cycles.
Yeah.
And that disease becomes ingrained into that family DNA. And he's just saying that, you know, undoing that, that's what this lifetime is about.
Yeah.
Is undoing that for many of us. Is
Good.
understanding this information and undoing our karmic cycles, our manifestations of our emotions, not only for ourselves, but also for our generations.
Yeah. Yeah, from the past and making it better for future generations.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, Bruce Lipton wrote the book Biology of Belief, that belief, and of course that also includes emotions, thoughts, emotions, can change the cells, can change the DNA, and then obviously that DNA gets passed on.
That's exactly right. And he says, and that's why it's so important. He goes, when you're taking the time to sit down and talk to yourself, he says, don't just talk to yourself in that way, but say, what do you believe in? Or if you're talking to yourself right now and you don't believe this is really working, why is that?
Or does this belief really belong to you? Or is it coming from your father, or
that's right,
you know, a bully, or etc.? Yeah,
that's right.
And the emotions too. Is this your emotion or is it somebody else's?
He says that's exactly right, Mom. That's exactly right. You are channeling him because you're saying exactly what he's saying.
Oh well, like son, like mother. Okay, so what? Give us an assignment every day at X o'clock.
Okay, so he says, and he's all rubbing together. He goes, I love this. And he said,
he likes to be bossy.
He does a little bit Mr. Bossy Pants. He says everybody should be having good spiritual health.
Yeah.
Good, and he goes, and this starts with grounding yourself. And he goes, and right now, especially the way energy is, and a lot of people are working on consciousness and expanding and stuffing themselves with so much spiritual information, that he said taking time out. He goes, I want everybody to take at least 10 minutes out a day and ground yourself and go over how you feel.
Yeah.
He says, take stock of yourself and how you feel. And he says, and if that can expand into a greater conversation, if you can work that into some sort of a tradition, or he says, if you are grounding, protecting yourself, but he says, if you're driving in the car, because I don't care how you do this. Well, okay. He says, although I do care about how you do it when you're driving a car.
Yeah.
But he says, I don't care how you take your 10 minutes, but he wants you to take 10 minutes with yourself. And he wants you to examine your emotions. And he says, and he goes, furthermore, if you are holding on to something, because there's a lot of people that are trying to clear out something that they, he's saying there's a lot of talk like, I don't know why this keeps happening.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of people that are into
pattern.
Or they've been working. There's a pattern. And he said the first way to break a pattern is to accept that there is one, to understand it, and to examine it.
Right.
So he says he just wants everybody to take 10 minutes, and he wants to talk about, he wants you to talk about to yourself about how you feel. And he wants you to address different parts of your body. He wants you to address, and he says, follow your intuition. What needs to be addressed first? Yeah. What part do you need to talk about first?
Yeah, you can visualize your body, and maybe something part of your body will light up for you, so you can go there. So what if you what if you see this pattern and you recognize it and you accept it, but you don't know where it's coming from? Like for me, I always have this pattern of people betraying me. Where does that come from? Like, okay, not where does it come from? I guess what I'm saying is, if people get stuck like that, who do they go to for help? Do they go to a medium and talk to Erik, or their spirit guide? Do they go to a life coach? Do they?
He says they can. Those are all great things.
Past life regression. Yeah.
He says, if you're really, really stuck and you can't understand it, and he says, because if you've done all the self processes, such as, you understand that this is the way you always feel. And he says, and if you've asked yourself the questions, is this mine? Like you had said, is this mine? Is this theirs? But there's a pattern. You understand all of that stuff. He says,
Yeah.
a lot of times something that can really, really help. He says, this is a biggie, to get yourself spiritually cleansed, energetically cleansed.
Okay.
He says to start out that way. He keeps mentioning, and he's saying this right now, he is mentioning something actually called body talk.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's an energetic type, just like Reiki or
Okay.
any of it. They're practitioners. And he says that it's a really good thing to do if you are cycling like that and you don't understand it, to go and get yourself cleansed. A lot of times that is happening when you are bogged down in other ways and you cannot clearly see. And he says, and to get yourself cleansed will either help you shift into the right perspective to see what's going on, to help you make the choices to be in the solution, or go to a practitioner or somebody that can help you go through that. Because he says that's what they're there for.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're there for.
So what do they do? Just balance your chakras, cleanse them, or
Yes.
is that, and the body talk does this, right? The body talk practitioners, maybe? Or do they do something else?
He said that there is a balance to it, but he says so what they're doing is they're actually connecting with your, he says it's not always called like your guides or your spirit team say the way that I would do that, but he says that they're connecting with your own intuition. So like the intuition is guiding them through the body.
Okay.
They have a process of doing that. He says it's worthwhile. It's another alternative for people, just like many of the different modalities with energy healing. One is not better than the other.
Yeah.
They're oftentimes, for people, it gives them a jump start.
Yes.
So when you're feeling sluggish and you're not understanding or things keep happening, having an energy clearing in whatever way you do that gives your body, and he just said too, you're often drawn to what's going to be, if you allow yourself to be guided, you'll be drawn to what is the best modality for you. And he also said there's also talking, there's like a psychotherapy, a talk therapy as well that has benefit to the body. He says, he goes, everything is connected.
Of course. Mind, body, soul, or spirit. So the Grinberg technique, that's a form of somatic experiencing, I think. But anyway, that somehow deals with the body. Is that kind of similar to the body talk practitioners?
He says a little different.
Okay.
He says it's not quite the same.
Okay.
He says that they focus a little different way.
Yeah. All right. And of course, it's really hard to communicate to your body if you're not completely in your body. And so there are a lot of people, I think, that are not totally in their body. They're like partly in the other realm. First of all, why are some people like that?
Well, he just said that he was saying that different neurological diseases. He also said some are spiritual contract. He says mental illness, also going to just like autism. There's many different ways. And then there are some people that are just very, very high vibrational.
Oh, yeah.
For whatever reason, they just don't ground. So he says, first of all, if there is a problem or there is a reason, if somebody is not very grounded in their body, the person has to be able to understand that themselves to be able to do, you know what I mean, go through that.
Yeah.
However, if there's somebody else that is not, whether they have dementia or anything else like that, Erik says that one can go through the higher self.
Oh, yeah.
to assist.
Yes.
And the higher
Okay.
self will allow whatever is allowed, because he goes, if there is a contract that they are to,
you can't do anything about that. Yeah.
That won't change them.
Yeah, I gotcha. Of course not. Okay, I just have really one more question. Some people are left-handed. What's that all about? Some people are right-handed. Is that anything? Is there anything spiritual about that?
He said that for one, he says, interestingly, in past lives, one will often keep that same hand.
Okay.
He says that, there is like the receiving hands, and this is something I'm not very good at, but what is it? Left hand receive? No. He's saying receiving hands. So with like Reiki or energy that they have receiving, but he says it's just dominant.
Okay.
He says if you look at the dominance too, he goes, you can correlate, because he says that not all right-handers are all right-hand thinkers. So they think.
Yeah. Well, usually it's the opposite. That the right-hand, I seem like the left-handed people tend to be more creative. So that'd be the right, because it's crossed up, it's crossed.
Well, I'm right-handed. Okay. And I'm extremely artistic. So he said that it's
so
not
it doesn't
really
work. Yeah,
it's not really a real good,
Okay.
He says looking at the lines on the hands would give you more information.
Okay. Hey, maybe your hand was chopped off in another life, so you didn't use that, so you use the other hand instead. You never know.
It's very possible.
When I was a little kid, I used to practice using only my left hand because I didn't want that whole other side to be so shriveled and atrophic. Anything else you want to add before we close?
Eric's he's reminding everyone that he's here to help too. And he said that, call upon him. He's talking about practicing too and feeling energy, and that he loves to do that. He loves to work with people's energy and everything. So he said himself or your loved ones, he said, this is a creative experience too. He says, this is fun. This is an amazing experience. And he says, we're all pioneers right now.
Yeah.
We really are all
It's
pioneers.
A new era we're going, yeah. And you're helping blaze the way, Eric.
Yes. He is a trailblazer, absolutely. But he said, don't lose sight of that. He goes, don't lose sight of the fact that, this is new. He says, be easy on yourselves, but have fun with it.
Yeah.
Lighten up. Don't be so serious about it. Have fun with it. And he says, every day we are just, we are just like the sun, and every day we renew ourselves again. And he says, so take that with you. And
awesome last words. Awesome. Oh, I love you, Eric.
He says, I love you, Mama.
Look at those beautiful eyes.
Oh my, he's a handsome little boy. Yeah. I gotta tell you, that makes my heart melt.
Oh, anyway, so Michelle, they can get in touch with you at the healing
heart
dash. The healing heart. Wait, where's the dash?
Okay, so healing and then H dash.
That's what I put. And then art.
It was perfect. Yeah, it was up there. And I also have
no S. Okay.
No, the healing heart, just one heart.
Right.
And Facebook is the same thing. The healing
so it's the healing art.com.
Yes.
There we go. All right, but thank you, Michelle. This was awesome. Thank you, Eric. Love you both.
Love you too. Bye. Love you, Mama.
Bye.
Bye.